Hello everybody. All right, I'm going to do a little bit different study today because I'm getting a lot of questions. Questions where people I think are confused or have been taught something wrong and are asking questions that are leading me to believe we need to do a quick Bible primer. Okay, so when we pull up our Bible, what are we actually looking at? Did somebody sit down and write from Genesis to Malachi and then from Matthew to Revelation? No, this is a collection of books, writings, letters, all compiled together. And when they put them together, a committee got together, a committee of scholars, if you will, and decided that these are the books and letters that need to be in this. Now, the Old Testament was pretty simple. It's been well documented that it hasn't changed for 1,000 years, thousands of years. So they can pull it together. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls that prove that it didn't change. The scribes that wrote that, all the different versions that they have throughout the times, all the different books, I should say, they're very consistent. They wrote it religiously. There weren't that many people that could read and write. The commoner didn't need it. And part of what we have to understand when we're reading the Bible is you have to understand who it was written by and who it was written for. The commoner couldn't read. There was no reason for them to be able to read. You didn't go to the supermarket and pull up and read the label and find out the nutrition value. You went over and go, that's a loaf of bread, I'll buy it. That's wheat flour, I'll buy it. How much? Well, soon it's going to be a denarius, but until we get there, our inflation is not that bad yet. But in any case, they didn't need to know how to read or write. They didn't have any technology. You didn't bring something home and have to open up a manual or a pamphlet to learn how to use it. Everything that they did was handed down, common knowledge handed down. So because of that, and the limited number of people that wrote the Old Testament, it stayed pretty much intact. And it didn't go through different translations. It was one basic language with a minor qualification. When the Jews were exiled to Babylon, they left knowing Hebrew. But when they got over there, there's a variation of Hebrew over there that they learned, and when they came back 70 years later, they spoke Aramaic. It's a little bit cleaned up version. The original Hebrew was very, very much in pictures. The Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, the first letter of the Bible, is basically the horns of an ox. And it looked more like an ox in the early Hebrew text. Aramaic, they've got it all in block letters. They've cleaned it up. It doesn't look like a picture of an ox. Bet, which is the second letter, Aleph Bet, alphabet, is close to Greek in the same way. Bet is house. Beth, Bethlehem. Okay, so that's how they originally wrote everything. And the earliest parts of the Bible, the oldest parts, weren't written down initially. There was an oral tradition. People learned it and would say it. Sort of like Fahrenheit 451, where they were preserving the books by just memorizing them. Well, we're going to bring that reference up again in a little bit. But in any case, they finally got it written down. Moses was a big part of that. He and or his scribes. It's such a big task, you wouldn't do it alone. And you sit in a nice quiet room and you write it down, and somebody has to proof it. It's supposed to be inspired by God. We have a limited number of books in here. Some churches, I'm just going to leave it at that, have added to it. Now, the books that they've added are helpful books, but not inspired books. And that's the difference. The story of the Maccabees, an important historical event. It's where we get the menorah from, the oil that burned seemingly forever when they should have been out. It was a miraculous event that we have historically recorded, but it's not God-inspired. The writings of Josephus at the time of Christ, again, more good historical writings, but he had a political agenda, and he tended to be flamboyant in his wording. Again, good historical information. When we don't have a lot of other options, people will reference it a lot. The Jews had massive commentaries, the Talmud and the Mishnah, good biblical references written by all the knowledgeable scholars of the time explaining the Old Testament. And it's good to see those and reference those, but it's not part of the canon, as we call it. Okay, languages. I mentioned that they spoke in Hebrew, they spoke in Aramaic, and at Jesus' time they spoke in Greek. The Babylonians had their language, the Philistines had theirs, all closely related because they're all from the general area. But a lot of words get incorporated when you're doing that. Look at our English language. We're a melting pot of countries from around the world. We have French words, we have Italian words, German words, Russian words, Latin words, which we're going to get into in a little bit, all incorporated in our language. And these don't include slang, variations by region. So it's important that when you're reading the Bible, you understand the slate which you're working with. Now, the original manuscripts of Jesus' time, the New Testament, we don't have any real original copies because one of the Roman emperors, totally inspired by Satan, tried to wipe out Christians. He went around killing them and burning books. Back to our Fahrenheit 451 reference. They were really good at finding where these were at. So the people at the time started taking the Bible apart that they had pieces of, the manuscripts that they had, and hiding a piece here and a piece there that later on had to be put back together. Fortunately, the next emperor was pro-Christian, and they did some rebuilding of that, but we don't have the original books. And they really didn't have books the way we have them. Writing at the time of Moses, you didn't write on paper. It was too volatile. You might do, some simple things on it, but you wrote on parchment or you wrote on animal skins because it would hold up better. Some would actually chisel it in rock. The Rosetta Stone was a magnificent find of 4 translations, so we could reference each one as we went around the stone, and we'd know what the other translation meant. There's a whole history of language here that you've got to understand that's incorporated in our Bible. And it was in 1611, it was translated by King James because he was having an affair. And he wanted some of the language regarding that lightened up a little bit. Now, we've fixed so much of that, but it was written in the King's English. The these and thous and beloved and all these other words that we have. I guarantee you they didn't speak like the king in ancient Israel. But it's nice, it's fun to listen to. And then we have the Catholic Church thinking that the writing was so sacred that the commoners couldn't take it in, so they had it translated into Latin, the sophisticated language, those that only the smart people knew. Pride goes before the fall. So we have the Latin Vulgate. But they didn't really start producing books until we got the Gutenberg press. because otherwise somebody had to handwrite it. And part of the problem we have with some of that, and we verified it with the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Hebrew language, writing was so sacred and the paper was so rare, they took the vowels out and only had the consonants. You were reading something that you were familiar with. You were using it as a reference so you didn't mess up. I take notes so that I don't mess up. If it's out of my head, I'm liable to insert a word here and there. I ad lib. I do that when I'm acting. If I forget my lines, I know the meaning of what I'm supposed to be saying. I might go ahead and say it in my own language. Sometimes I get away with it, sometimes I don't. They have script people there that will read you the line back if you can't remember it. But when it comes to the Bible, this is supposed to be the inspired Word of God. You don't change it. The Bible is almost as sacred as Shakespeare. Yeah, I don't like doing Shakespeare. I love watching it, but you can't mess up one word. Somebody in the audience will pick it up. These guys are fanatic about it. Unfortunately, not that fanatic about the Bible, but we'll get into that in a little bit. The key is it was written in its original language, and then it was translated to all the other languages around the world. It's basically been translated into almost every spoken language in the world, which is a fairly major accomplishment. But that's some of the reason that we have some of the questions on how this word is used. I got a few comments about there's no rapture. We don't have a rapture coming up. The word rapture is not in the Bible. Well, correct, in the English Bible. But those Catholics put it in the Latin Bible. And then, of course, we have to Englify every word. And some of my Latin words here, I'm going to use my reference and my glasses so I can see what I've written down. Omni, a word that you're used to, especially when you put it with potent, omnipotent, would be the combined word. Omni meaning all, potent meaning powerful, all powerful, omnipotent, omnipresence, everywhere. God is omnipresent. Satan is not, by the way. That's why he's got so many workers and demons working for him to gather all the information, because he's not omnipresent. We have rapio, and we've converted it into rapture. Some have it rapturo, but it's basically the same word, and it basically means to snatch away or to be caught up. And here's another one for you. Gloria. It's a common name, means glory. That's almost easily understood. In excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. At Christmas time, you'd be hearing that. Basically means glory to God in the highest. Deo is God. Those are all Latin words and phrases. So we can't just say it's not in the Bible. You've got to qualify that. And then it depends on what your translation version is. I mentioned the King James because I like the writing of the King James because it's a word-for-word translation. The Living Bible and some of the other ones, they don't have a word-for-word. Somebody's trying to write it down in what they believe the way they meant it in our modern language. But you can't pick a word out and say, well, this word was used here, because it's not a word-for-word translation. Now, I use the New King James because it's the King James translation without the these and thous. I don't speak that way. If I speak that way to a non-Christian, they kind of look down on me because they think I'm trying to be overly holy with them and they don't like it. So I find an English version of the King James is a better version for me. You use whatever you want. I've been to churches that refuse to use anything but the King James. And if you go to a church and they've got, well, you got to have this other book along with it. Nah, you can't do that. You can't add or take away from the Bible. It's inspired by God. Nothing else is. So that's why we study it. Now, there are people that like to claim that they've gone through and they've read through the Bible 100 times. Well, I've read through it 5 or 6 times, from cover to cover. You can put yourself on a regiment, start in January and read so many chapters. They're already out there outlined. You can go on and Google it and you find out how to do it. It's okay to pick up the high points, what I call 10,000 foot high points. If you're in an airplane and you're flying at 10,000 feet, you can see a certain amount of detail, but you can't see everything. It's good to get the big picture, but if you really want to get the big picture, you got to be on the ground to understand it, how it all connects together. See, when you read the Bible, you have to study it. My Bible is also a study Bible. At the bottom, depending on the book and what they're talking about, there's commentary. And if I do this online, which is easier to do now because of the technology, you can click on a word and it will give you the original word that it was written. That's how we get, in our Bible, we get harpazo, which is the Greek for caught up, which was translated into rapture, rapturial. In any case, you can click on the word and it will give you the history of the word. But you want to watch for it, because a lot of times some of these words are used and have totally different meanings depending on the context. There's so much that you miss by not reading this in the original language. But most of us aren't scholars of the language and have time to do that. I studied Hebrew in synagogues when I was growing up. I don't remember much of it. I can't even get all the way through the alphabet, I don't think. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. It's close to ours in sound, and I'm not good with my vocal parts, even though I do some acting. I can't get the guttural sounds, the clean out the nose of phlegm sound that a lot of them use. I also have a trouble with my tongue. I'm tongue-tied, as they say. I can't roll my R's, so I have trouble with Spanish and other type languages that are like that. German, Russian. I can't roll my R's. And I'm Scottish in my ancestry, and I can't talk like a Scotsman the way I should. All right, getting back to our Bible. You really need to study it. You need to know the context, and you need to know who it was written for. The people that it was written for, like I said, couldn't read or write. They had other qualities that they didn't know what the technology is. Our prophets that are writing about today had never seen an airplane or a tank or a car or any of that other modern technology that we rely on so heavily. They didn't have a smartphone. If they had the Bible, there might be 3 people carrying it on scrolls. The original Torah was on scrolls. And they would open the cabinet, take it out, lay it out on a pedestal, open it, roll it up, or take it out to where you could read from it. Somebody would come up in front of everybody, read from it. This is part of the Jewish culture. And we get the word Jew from Judah. At one point in time, the families split up, the tribes split up. And we had Israel to the north and Judah to the south. They were both wandering off, but Israel was faster at wandering off, and they got conquered first. Eventually, they got rid of Judah too. You can't go against God's simple instruction for very long. He'll let you do it for a little while, and he may thump you over the head a few times to see if he can get your attention. But if you shrug it off, you're in trouble. And that's the other thing. We've had many, many ins and outs. They're a country, they're not a country. They're scattered, they're not scattered. They're part of this group. They're part of that group. Israel is a nation because Russia was one of those that voted for him in 1948 to become a country. And the reason they voted for him is they thought there were going to be very friendly Russians down there, because a lot of them did come from Russia, and they had communes, which is a Russian term for socialism. They turned out to be more Jewish than Russian, and they later regretted it. They're going to try to do something about it here soon, but they're not down there yet. They've asked Iran for arms. I'm getting off again on another rabbit hole. I wonder if they're going to stage them in Syria on their way to the Ukraine. Get them halfway there, and then they're ready. They're ready for Magog to attack. It's fun watching this stuff. The book of Revelations, for the most part, is not meant to enlighten us to what we're going to go through. It's so that we can tell the rest of the world what you're going to go through if you don't accept Christ. But as with most prophecy, if you go back through time, most prophecy is really for us to look back and know that God did know what he was doing. He told us about it before he did it. And yes, it matches exactly. God did this. That's what prophecy seems to be for. Most people didn't accept it. They didn't accept Noah. They didn't really accept Moses. Moses at one point in time said, God, why have you burdened me with your people? If this is the way it's going to be, kill me. These are the children of God, not the children of Moses. This is a conversation that he had with God, and we have it written down. So if you're having problems and you're arguing with God, you're not the first. Do it respectfully, and God will accept it. Okay, so we get our translations, we got all of our words, we're looking at all this stuff. Use a study Bible. Find someone who will teach it online. I am hitting the high points. I am not a lifelong seminary graduate who has been teaching this for 50 years. I've had many careers in my time. I've taught Bible in a number of different churches throughout my Christian career. So I have that experience. And I've taught a number of other things. But I was in the military for a while. I worked in aerospace. I've had a number of corporations. I used to program, maintain servers and server clusters and things. So I've got a very wide variety of background to look at. So that helps when I'm teaching. My acting that I'm doing now, well, it's fun. I'm playing. How many didn't run around in cowboy outfits or doctor outfits or nurse outfits when you were little? Well, I'm doing that now, and it's kind of fun. And I'm retired. I don't have to do anything. I do it because I enjoy it. And that's what you got to do. Whatever you're doing for a career, you have to enjoy it because you're going to be doing it a lot. God's made this world very interesting for us. Fun. That's where I like to get out in nature a lot. I'm looking at all the things God created. His imagery that he's given us is better than a Picasso, because his is real life art. And God's going to create it all over again, because this earth is going to be destroyed by fire. Not by flood, he said he wouldn't do that again, but by fire. And it's going to be recreated. How? I don't know. We don't know how this universe was created, let alone how the next one's going to be created. But he's going to stay down here and rule for 1,000 years, so we got some time. But as you're studying the Bible, don't get caught up on words. Get the pun there? Caught up? Harpazo, caught up. My one scripture for today is one that we all should be very familiar with when we look at the end times. Get my glasses back out again. And that would be 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 15 through 17. Okay, so where are we at here? Again, you should be, at this time and age and everything that we're studying, we should be very familiar with this. And it's in multiple places in the Bible, but here's one of the better ones. And of course, it's Paul writing to the Thessalonians. For this we say to you by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord will by no means precede those who are asleep. Those that are dead in the ground are going to rise first. So if you know somebody who's a Christian and who's died, they're going to get to see the Lord before you do. Okay? For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout. That's where we get this trumpet part. With the voice of an archangel and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up to meet the Lord in the clouds. And thus we shall always be with the Lord. Therefore comfort one another with these words. There's 2 times it is talked about Jesus coming to the earth. People say there's no rapture. This is the rapture. This is the caught up. When he comes, the second coming, when he actually comes to the earth itself, he's stopping in the clouds here. He's not setting foot on earth. When he comes for the second coming, he's coming back with an army. He's not coming back to play any game. He's serious. He's coming back with an army from heaven. No one's going to be able to stand up to him. Okay, so that's our scripture reading for the day. When you study the Bible, don't pick it up. As I've said many times, don't pick it up and read this unless you're in a good case, good connection with God. Make sure you're sin-free. Then you can study it, and as a Christian, the Holy Spirit will explain it to you. And just because you're reading something that you read before, I've got a study Bible that I mark up and write in. This is my everyday reading Bible, and I don't mark it up. I don't want to be influenced by what I read the first time I read it. I've read scriptures many times where I get a different meaning to fit whatever I'm currently dealing with. So I don't mark it up. If I'm doing my study Bible and I want to know my word usage and things like that, yeah, I mark it up. And I'll put in other references. There's so many in the New Testament. Christ said, I didn't come to do away with the law, but to fulfill it. He's referencing the Old Testament time and time again. He's just using it in the current age, the current people that he's talking to. And most of the time he was talking to the religious leaders when he's using the Old Testament, but many times he's talking to the common people. His disciples, for the most part, weren't anything special. They were commoners. Fishermen, I mean, that's a good job to have, but you're not working in the temple. But then again, the people that worked in the temple had forgotten what they were doing and why they were doing it. Okay, study the Bible. I do these studies and I try to hit the high points. I don't go into the details a lot because sometimes it's not important. If you're a Christian, if you're a God-fearing individual that has accepted the blood of Christ for your salvation, you're a Christian. That's the most important part. And that's what we're supposed to be sharing with everybody. And that's frankly the only reason we're still here. We're going to be snatched away because we're going to be pulled away at the last minute. We're not subject to wrath. We don't know about the first half of when the bad stuff is going to really start. From the midway point, when the Antichrist says, I'm the Christ, worship me, the abomination of desolation, when that happens, that's midway through the 7-year time period. That's where it's called the Great Tribulation. The part before, It doesn't have a designation. Now, we call the whole 7-year period time of tribulation or the tribulation, but it's not accurate. The first part, we don't have a starting point. Is the rapture the starting point? And we got to be out of here pretty soon. Is the Magog War the starting point? There's a little bit of time for that. The Antichrist can't do his thing until we're gone. So we've got to be out of here in the first part, fairly early. I would, plan for pre-trib and plan for mid-trib, but I wouldn't go any further than that. Because the second half, the wrath of God is thrown out on the earth, and we are not subject to wrath. That's what I'm saying. It's important to get these words right. If you don't get the words right, your interpretation is going to be wrong. And there are so many interpretations. The water is muddied constantly. That's how Satan diversifies the lies out there. People pick up a lie, think it's the truth, and start sharing it. How many religious denominations and churches do we have in this world? Far too many. The Catholics were right in one way. There should only be one church, one way. But absolute power corrupts absolutely, so they fell prey to that. I have so much I want to say, but I'm trying to be polite, politically correct. Jesus would go in and start turning over the tables if he were down here to deal with all this. Okay. As long as you're a Christian, you're in good shape. If you're not, you need to be one. Just accept Jesus into your heart, accept his blood sacrifice, and you're a Christian. You can't get to heaven by working your way there. The rest of the stuff is academic, and it depends on how much you want to study. People have spent their whole life at it and haven't finished. Know enough to understand. I told you I had varying careers. I started off as a physics major. All of my tests were open book. If you didn't know the concepts by the time you got to the test, it wouldn't do any good. And we had to look up formulas. Formulas were too long sometimes to remember and keep in your head, so you had a book that you could open up and look. I did a test for 2 hours, one problem. I got it wrong, but got an A. I made a simple math error. Even Einstein said that arithmetic is the hardest math there is. That's why he almost flunked out of his early schooling, because he was bored to death. Okay, I'm not smart like he is, but I know history. And what we're seeing right now is history repeating itself. Okay. You have what's left of the week, a good week. We just had the Ides of March. We got St. Patrick's Day coming up. Wish your Irish friends a happy St. Patrick's Day. I won't get into the fact that Patrick is not his name and green was not the original color. But people sit around and drink beer and have a good time. As long as they don't drink to excess, that's okay. I don't drink anymore. And I have a good friend that performs acts at different Renaissance festivals, which I'm going to be able to see him in about a month, a little less than that. He doesn't drink either, but he's got a song called Free Beer. He goes, if you sing it really loud, they'll think we're offering free beer and they'll come and watch my show. But he's always got water in his mug, and I do the same thing now. Okay, have fun on this earth. Don't be afraid. Be kind to others. We're all struggling with something. And God will come and get us very soon. Yeah, you can buy the green bananas, but I wouldn't look at a 10-year investment. Okay. Till we meet in the clouds, God bless.